Well, good morning, guys. Thor, Marshall, always jealous as usual, right? Yeah. Oh man, today is February the 3rd, and it is a nice rainy day. I was going to work up on my property, but I'm supposed to do this today and tomorrow, so Saturday and Sunday, so I ain't going to be able to get anything done up there. I have been working on my 3D printers this morning. Got those up and going. They're printing some stuff. If you guys wanted to check that out, I got another channel. It's Innovative 3D Printing on YouTube here and Instagram, TikTok, all that. But if you wanted to go see that stuff, that's pretty cool to watch. Anyway, today we are going to be changing the front wheel bearings on a 2005 Ford Ranger two-wheel drive. This is the 5-speed with the 2.3 in it, yeah. So anyway, I was on my way to work the other day. And well, actually for the last couple of weeks, I've been hearing a humming noise coming from this front driver's side. And so I had a feeling the bearing was getting bad on it. And the other day I was on my way to work, and it really started making some bad noises. So, and then about the time I got to work, I could feel the tire kind of binding up on me. So I got it towed home and went and bought the bearings that we need. We're gonna do all of them. We got the outer bearing, little bitty tiny one, the inner bearing, and race. We're gonna replace the races too. And then you also have your inner seal, because we'll tear that up, taking the old one out. Marshall, what are you doing? Stop it. What, Thor? Is he getting annoying? He's a young pup compared to you, huh? I think Thor's about 10 years older than Marshall. Anyway, so I'm going to get this up in the air and get the front tires taken off of it. And we'll start to dig into this, see what we find out. Dang, man. We got 2 bolts for the brake caliper. You got one on top right here and one right down here on the bottom. They are, look, I think it's 14. Yeah, 14 millimeter. But before you take those out of there, you're going to want to get in here with a screwdriver, and I just grab a hold of the rotor or something like that and compress your caliper. Don't hook the brake pad, hook the caliper. And just loosen it up a little bit. You don't need to go real far with it. Just enough to give it a little movement, because you got to be able to get this off and get it back on when you're done. So I'll go a little bit more. And there's 2 pistons. You got a piston up here and a piston down here pushing on the brake pad. So do it top and bottom. Make it a little easier on you. All right, let's get these bolts out. Just a little short one. All right. Let me get a bungee cord or something to hold this up with. Okay, this should just slide right off here. Yeah, just like that. Need to put a bungee cord or a strap, or you need to do something to hold it up so it isn't hanging from the see that, so it isn't hanging from the brake line. So now we slide the brake pads out here. Oh, yeah, see, that did come off there. It's that plate. Stuck. It's just glued to it anyway, but you know, it happens, I guess. Normally that's still stuck on here. So just slide the top out. Remember, always line all your parts up so you know how you took them off. Let's see. Just that out of there. And brake pads don't look bad. There's still some life in those. I would have changed them, but I don't think it's necessary. That backside's kind of chewed up a little bit too. I wonder if that was from it binding up. Let's see if I can oh yeah, see if you can see the wobble. Yeah, those bearings are bad. It's probably the main one on the back, I would assume. Even though the front one might be bad too, but it's definitely a wobble. Okay, now you got 2 more bolts. These hold the brake caliper mount, I guess. You got one right there, and it looks like the other one is back. Let's see, back behind this lip right here. And there it is. I was right, they're 15 mil. Get this one back here. Oh. And these are going to be very, you know what, let me go get a pry bar. These are going to be very tight. I got an assortment of breaker bars anywhere from 12 inches up to 4 foot. It's just nice to have them around because you know, that wasn't so bad. But you'll know breaker bars come in handy more often than not. Oh, that one was a little tighter. Just makes it easier and you don't bust your knuckles. Looks like 1.5 inches, 2 inches long. Alright, it slides right off there. And remember, there's some metal clips. There's sliders, top and bottom. There's one on both sides. And those are what your brake pads actually slide inside of. And it looks like I need to, actually looks like I need to grease these, but we'll do that when we put it back together. All right, now we got all the brake assembly off there. Only a couple of things keeping this on, and I'm glad I didn't buy new rotors. I didn't need all that. This is a cap covering the front, the nut that holds the whole spindle, holds a whole rotor on there, and also that front bearing. What you got to do is there's a little lip, and you got to get in here with a screwdriver and pry it loose. See, I'm going to need to tap that in with a hammer very gently. These are easily bent, so just want to there's not enough room to get a screwdriver, so I need to get a little hammer. Just need to get it started. And you'll probably bend it a little bit. Everybody does. Work your way around it. There's the cap, and I dented it a little bit. I'll just come from the back side and tap it back out. Not a big deal. Of course, clean everything up when you're working on these. There's no sense in not doing that. So now I need a pair of needle nose. All right, so there should be a cotter pin in here. That's a really long cotter pin. Sometimes I need a bigger pair of pliers. Trying to grab onto it with the cutting edge. There we go. So you use wire cutters or something like that, you can get a lot better bite on the cotter pin. I've got replacements. I'm probably not going to reuse that. Okay, now there is this is the lock washer or lock nut. It slides over the main nut. It's just a cover with the castle nut parts on it. I don't know. Now this, yeah, it should be loose enough. You should just be able to loosen it by hand, which I was. Now there's a washer next. There we go, just a regular old washer. And then the outer bearing should come out just like that. That grease smells old, and it looks old. All right, now I'm just going to grab a hold of the rotor. I should be able to slide the whole thing off. This is what you're attached to, so you just give it a little wiggle. Uh-oh. There we go. Oh, yep, it was the back bearing. Hold on, I'll show you. Ah, my hands are covered in grease. All right. There's, it looks like I even had a couple bearings. Actually, more than a couple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, there's another one. 10. Let's see what these look like. Oh, those look terrible. Like I said, this had been making a noise for a couple of weeks. I knew the bearing was going bad. I just kept driving it. Cost me $100 to get it towed home. I should have just did this a while back. So there's the inside of it. Oh, yep, there goes the rest of the bearings. Okay. There's part of the bearing itself. I'm lucky I made it to work that day. There's the, oh crap, that race is stuck on there. That's why that, okay, there's the seal. The seal didn't come out with it. Wow. It's absolutely destroyed. So, anyway, we're gonna fix all that. We put all new, clean it all up, put new stuff in there. The seal stayed on the spindle. I don't think we hurt the spindle. The race is still intact. We got to get that off there though. Let me get a plan. Oh shit, that is welded. I was wondering why I was struggling so hard. Usually this isn't that difficult. but it's actually melted to the spindle. Crap, that's not what I wanted to see. Wow. Crap. It's not what I wanted to see. Ah, I knew better. And I still did it to myself. Alright, so you can see that. The center of the bearing was just stuck. I cut a little bit deep right there. I actually got into the spindle. I don't know that I can clean that up. That's welded from heat. I'm gonna try and clean it up and see how bad it is. And we'll just go from there. I'm not gonna be able to clean that up good enough for a bearing to sit on, I don't think. All right, I'm just gonna have to order a new spindle for it, steering control. I don't know what they got. I think it's just called a spindle assembly. I'd have to look it up on my phone again. Steering knuckle, yeah. So anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and order a new one. It's only 100 to 130 bucks for one. But for now, I am gonna go ahead and show you how to get these bearing races out of here. If that'll come out, if it isn't welded to the rotor. And this, I need to see if I can get it out. That way I'll know. If I can't get it out, then I'll have to order new rotors also. Okay, we're gonna drive out the race for the front bearing. So I have this set up like this. I found a socket that's barely, see, there's not much of a lip there. There's just a little bit, maybe a 1/16 of an inch around the whole outside edge. You gotta find a socket. I thought I have this kit from Harbor Freight and it works for most things, but it don't have one quite small enough. I'd have to like barely shave the edges of this to get it to work, but I don't want to damage it, so I found a socket that'll fit it. This is my sacrificial extension. It's been beat on a lot. Where's my hammer? Let's see if we can get that front one out. There's the front one. It's the race from the inside. Okay, so I'm going to show you another way to get this bearing race out. Is you'll be able to, from the inside, you'll be able to get a little flat chisel, and you can take it along the edge and tap it and work your way in circles around it all until it comes out the bottom. And that's what we're going to have to do to get this back one out, because you can't get a socket big enough in there to push it out. So flip it over and I don't think it's coming out. Use a bigger chisel. I don't think it's normally quite that difficult to get out. There we go. Well, that part came out. So there you go. That's how you get your races out. And what you want to do now is you're going to get this all cleaned up, wipe it all out, get all the old grease and everything out of there. And you're going to take your new bearings, take the races off, and you'll have to get those driven in there too. Okay, so final decision is I'm going to go ahead and order that new spindle. It should be here in 3 or 4 days from Amazon. Found it for $92, I think is for one. I'm gonna take apart the other side after I get this all put back together, which, I mean, get the bearings put in here. I can't put it together until I get the spindle. And if it needs replaced, I will, but the other side wasn't making noise. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and put the bearings back in here. I've already cleaned all this out. I wiped it all out, got all the old grease and nastiness out of it. So yeah. So what you want to do is you got your new race. You see it's tapered. It's thinner on this side and thicker on that side. The thick side goes down. And this bearing seal driver kit, go ahead and get you one because most of the time it works. I happen to have one the right size that it just barely fits down there and doesn't touch the walls, doesn't get stuck. And it's still big enough to hit the race. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set this on here, and you gotta kind of have a feel for it. And you feel the side that's sticking up higher than the other, and that's the side you want to concentrate your force on. So we're gonna try and get it started. You wanna do this very gently. Make sure it's going down straight, perfectly straight. All right. Now you know it's tight because it can't go any further, and there was a nice bounce to my hammer when I hit it. And you can tell. And what that does, there's a lip down there that it stops on, so you can only go so far. Just want to make sure. Oh yeah, that's in there. All right, well that's the small bearing. Flip it over. And let me see if I have the right bearing seal driver to fit this. All right, I found actually was the right size. This is a 63 millimeter to drive the back race in, and it was I don't know, there we go, 44.5 millimeter for the smaller front bearing, the race. All right, let's see. I'm using a big hammer, but I'm not hitting it very hard. Get it started. If you notice one side going down faster than the other, move over and hit the higher side. You want it to be as square as you can get, otherwise you could gouge the metal. You don't want that. You're not in any hurry. gonna hit it pretty firm. Not hard, but with a purpose. Always check to make sure your tool's not binding up on you. That means you're doing it right. Oop. There you go, can't go any further. Alright, if you have a bearing packing tool, it's a tool where you take the bearing and put it in it, and you can use your grease gun to get grease into all the bearings inside of here before you put it together. I don't think I have the right grease right now, so I'm going to do it by hand, which isn't hard to do. You got your new bearing, you got your wheel bearing grease. What you want to do is you're going to get it and you're going to force it into the bearing. You can see. Just forcing it in there. Do it from the back side too. Try and push it in there as best you can. You really want to push it in there. Get as much grease in it as you can. Alright, lots of extra grease. Just play with it for a little while. And work the grease in there. Okay, now I'm going to take some extra grease. I'm going to put it right behind that race there. You almost can't put too much grease in here unless you just completely fill it up, which we all know that's not necessary. Lube everything up. You take your bearing, remember the tapered side. I don't know if you can see that. It needs to go down like that. Give it a little spin. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little extra in there. Alright, let me get cleaned up and we'll put the seal in it. Okay, so I think that the 63 mil that I used for the bearing race is going to work. Yeah, I might go one size bigger. I think I'll go up to the 65 mil for the grease, seal. And what you're going to do is you're going to take it, just like you did the race, center it on there and slowly tap it in until it is just flat against it. Actually, I'm just going to use the same one. I think we'll be alright. One side went in too far. Be careful. Dang it. One side keeps going down on me. Maybe I should get a bigger one. I don't know, can you guys even see that? There we go. One side kept going in first. I had to make it go in. What you want to do is just hit it. Not hard, but secure enough that you know that it's in there, because it'll stop. And what I'm going to do, put a little bit more grease on the top side here. Pack it in behind that seal. Kind of get a little bit on the seal, that way it kind of lubricates it a little bit too. All right, so the front race is in, the back is all put together. And normally in this situation, you would go ahead and grease up your front bearing, get all the grease packed in it, and you would just slide this back onto your spindle. But I got to replace the spindle. So I'm going to take the other side apart, get those bearings switched out, and when I get that done, when I go to put it back together, I'll show you guys how to do that. I actually didn't get to show you guys taking the seal out on the other one because it came off when I pulled the rotor off. You're going to put a new one in here anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you damage it or not. But there you go. See, there's the old one. It's real easy to come out, bend it, whatever. It doesn't matter. And there's the back bearing. It's definitely worn. It needed to be done. So, all right, let's see here. Okay, I got the rear bearing installed. There's plenty of grease in there. Everything looks good. I put a little extra grease in there before on the back side of the race here. I kind of scrape my finger along there and spread it out in there. You don't need a whole lot in there. Just a little extra ain't gonna hurt though. So this should just slide on here now. I got that all cleaned up too. You should have to push. There it goes. All right, see, that slid on there nice and firm. That means that seal is on there really good. You'll have to use some effort, do some wiggling, twist it back and forth, get it lined up to get on there. Okay, next we got the small bearing that I got all greased up, ready to go. I'm gonna slide that on there. To match the race, it goes on like this. Push it in there. And I cleaned up all of my washer and my nuts. Got them all cleaned up of the old grease. Now if you can tell which side your nut was touching, which one wasn't, you can put it back on that way, but I don't think it really matters. Okay, now you're only going to tighten that by hand. You don't need to use a tool on it. What you want it to do is be tight enough to hold it, but not tight enough to squeeze the whole thing. There you go. There's really no way to tell you how tight to get it that I'm aware of. You just get it till it's snug, it feels good. It's too loose. That feels good right there. And what you want to do is put your locking nut with your castle part on it, like a castle nut. Make sure it lines up with your cotter pin hole. I am using a new cotter pin. I always keep a supply of these in a case. You just buy them. Harbor Freight's got the box assorted sizes. That's always worked well for me. And they only need to be folded over enough that your dust cover will go back on without touching it. So I'm gonna get a little bit of grease, shove it in there, and then we'll tap this cover on. I didn't clean it. There we go. Let me go get a little bit of grease. It's not a lot, just a little bit extra. Probably overdoing it, but that's okay. It's not gonna hurt anything. Okay. Now, just gotta get this tap back on there without damaging it. Make sure it's tight all the way around. And you're good to go. Also, before you put this together, if you got any grease or anything on the rotor, you might get you some carb cleaner and clean it up. Check the back side too. You don't want grease in your brake pads. I didn't really have any grease on it, it was just fingerprints, so we're all right on that. Anyway, put your brake caliper bracket back on there. When you tighten that down, you want to tighten it down basically as tight as you can get it. And put your actual brake caliper on there. Don't forget your brake pads. I am going to put grease on these sliders. I'm going to put a little dab of grease where the main part of that sits on there. It keeps them from squeaking and actually helps them move a little bit better too. And the grease I use for this is the suspension grease that you use when you put new bushings or something in. That's what I use on this. It's nice and sticky. So that's it. This side's done. I'm gonna go home after this and get the new spindle ordered, or steering knuckle ordered for this side. There's no repairing that. There's no fixing it. There's no way around it. I should have changed these out a month ago when I first heard that humming noise coming from this side. It's my own fault. And so yeah, I'll do a video of this. I'm probably not gonna do everything yet. I want to do all new ball joints, bushings, tie rod bushing, tie rods, all that stuff. But I'm gonna get it all ordered and plan a weekend or a Saturday or Sunday. I can get all that done. Shouldn't be too bad. I can get it done in a day, and then I got to take and get an alignment done after that. But well, this is just gonna have to sit up here for a couple of days. Hopefully I can get some expedited ordering on that, because this shop gets used during the week while I'm at work, and this is the only lift we have. Darn it, I didn't mean for this to happen. It's just the way it worked. So all right guys, we'll see you next time.